In this episode of Cooking for Kyle, we're going to be making meatballs, mashed potatoes, and corn because we're fancy like that. So before we get working, we're going to get the oven preheating. I'm going to go with regular bake and about a 325 degree oven. And it's going to need to cook a little bit longer. That's a little bit lower temperature, but I think it works a little better with things like hamburgery things to cook them a little bit longer at a little bit lower temperature so that they don't seize up and get real tough. We're going to be using this episode brought to you by Whitaker Beef. At Whitaker Beef, we make beef. So I'm going to open up a couple of packages of Whitaker ground beef that I have defrosted and put them into my mixing bowl. I already washed my hands, trust me. You just have to trust me on that. With things like this, you can use wooden instruments to try to kind of mix things together, but it usually works best just to get your hands in there. So I'm going to make sure first of all that it's thoroughly broken up here, because sometimes if you haven't defrosted it completely, it will give like little hard icy parts here in the middle, which are not going to work very well when you try to roll them out into meatballs. So we need to make sure that we're all mostly broken apart here. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some eggs. I'm going to do 4 eggs. Reason I do 4 is because I have no idea how many you're supposed to do, so I'm just going to do 4. Going to add some breadcrumbs at this point. The amount of breadcrumbs is really important. I'm using the Italian style breadcrumbs, and the amount's pretty important. That's why I don't know what it is, but whatever. However much happened to be in the bowl is the right amount, because the canister was the right amount, because that's gone now. Those are the Italian style. I'm going to add a little black pepper, that much, and I'm going to throw a little bit of minced onion in there, because Kyle likes a little flavor with his meal. You always know that you have enough when you stop. And I'm gonna, for my seasoning here, for my salt, I'm gonna use this all-purpose Greek seasoning. It's kind of got a little bit of everything. You know, try it. If you don't like it, try something else. And then we are going to go ahead and mix. And with meatloafs, meatballs, things like this, when you mix them, you can put them into like a mixer, but they don't work very well with meats, with ground meat. So you pretty much just becomes a lot easier to go in and just take it on with your bare hands. And we're just mixing it, getting sort of a uniform consistency here, getting all those spices and eggs and breadcrumbs all kind of mixed together so that we don't got chunks of breadcrumb here and there. I'm gonna let Amelia edit this. Hopefully she knows how to like fast forward stuff so that you can watch this fast. Cause
probably pretty boring. So I have to turn off the video, but my hands are filthy, so I'll just keep going. It's fine. I'll turn it off, yeah.
So I think we got a pretty good little mix in there. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take little pieces of this out, and you can kind of roll them up into little balls. You can make, if that one's like maybe about an inch and a half in diameter, you can kind of do it whatever way you want. You can make really great big ones, you can make tiny little ones, just kind of whatever you're in the mood for. Might just, if you get too small, I don't know, it's really not. They cook a little bit faster if they're a little bit smaller, but not necessarily whole lot of difference. And as I do that, I'm just putting them over into this iron skillet. It's going to go directly into the oven. Now there's lots of different ways to do these. You can put them on the stove top and brown them. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to bake these for a little while. And keep doing this until I run out of meat. See how fast I did that? I'm amazing. I bet you can't do it that fast. So there we are, and for our, we got 3, 6, 9,
16.
12,
16, 17.
I don't know. I started to count, but Owen thought estimating was better, so let's call it a baker's 15.
18.
So now we're going to go ahead and put these in the oven. The oven has gotten warm. Here, when you can unplug that. You can unplug that and follow me here. Keep it in landscape mode. Keep it in landscape mode. So we're going to just set these into the oven, and we're going to take those out when they're done, which is going to be, it's 6 o'clock now. It'll be significantly after 6 o'clock, so we'll check them then. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Whose birthday is it? Is it Helen's birthday? What? Anna Grace. Happy birthday, dear Anna Grace. Happy birthday to you. So you only have to sing it one time if you forget who you're singing it to. Turns out that touch doesn't work very well when your hands are wet. Time while we wait for those meatballs to bake, we're going to start making the mashed potatoes. I like to use these red potatoes. I think that they have a nice flavor and texture. But if you can make them out of just about anything. So I'm gonna, you don't have to peel your potatoes, but I usually do. So I have this garbage disposal, so whenever I'm gonna use this sink, if I put potatoes in it, they'll fall in, so I have to put this stopper in, but sideways, because I still want it to drain. So put the potatoes in here. Rinse them off a bit. And what you're gonna need then is you're gonna need a potato peeler. It looks like this. You hold it with your right hand. You hold the potato with your left hand. And if you're left-handed, you still got to do it this way. It doesn't work any other way. And so you hold the potato and you push and slide the peeler across, and it removes the skin. It's kind of like magic, basically. And so
Nice.
if you do it real fast, you can see if you can cut yourself, you know. And what was that, Owen?
Slice and dice.
Slice and dice. Yeah, we'll get to the dicing. Well, we're not really doing it. We're peeling right now. I'm not slicing or dicing.
I just got reminded of potato launcher now.
Yeah. We need to get the potato launcher. It's at school, though. It's not really cooking with Kyle.
As it is messing with
If you're not. Oh, I'm keeping it on the screen. It's hard to do this looking through the screen.
You are.
I'm sure that everyone watching this could just sit and watch this for hours. Look, he's peeling potatoes. So
It's almost this. There should be some.
I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Yeah, see, I told you I was almost done. I'm really fast here. So normally I would have stopped at like 8 or 9 potatoes like I had in a minute ago, but since we're cooking for Kyle, we know Kyle is a big eater, so we're gonna make sure we're gonna do the entire 5 pounds. What? Oh, did you find something? We have a problem? Oh, that's fine. We have a disposal. So a few of them can go down there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to start separating these. You can put skins down the disposal, but when there's a lot of them like this, they can clog. So I'm gonna go ahead and get most of them out and put them into the trash can. And we're gonna separate the rest out. Ooh, we lost a couple. Come on back. Come on back.
You lost more than a couple.
Did I?
I'm pretty sure. I was debating whether or not
three.
I saw one fall. under
Yeah,
there
three.
earlier.
Three is more than a couple. You're right. Okay, so there we go. Let's start pulling these out and rinsing them off as we go. This isn't how we're going to boil them, but got to have a place to set them out while we wait. Riveting entertainment. And we're going to run the disposal for a second. Ow! Oh yeah. It's getting them. You actually really couldn't grab. Don't put your finger in the disposal. Alright, there we go. Alright. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be cutting these up. So we got to be careful. It's got to be safety first. So we'll be using a large sharp knife here. It's very important that we have a drink just in case.
You never know what could go wrong after all.
Well, this way, if we cut ourselves, it won't hurt as much.
Fair.
So we're going to take the potatoes and cut them into pieces that are smaller than they would be if they were a whole potato. So that's how big you want them, is smaller than they were before you cut them. It's very precise. So I just kind of pour them back in here and pull out the big ones. You can pretty much tell the difference between the big ones and the ones that you've cut up by size. Usually you can do that if you've done your job properly.
What, teaching at the high schools?
I don't think I signed up for a sidekick.
I'm sorry.
I didn't ask for Ed McMahon here. He doesn't know who Ed McMahon is. So, anyhow, you keep doing this until there are no more big ones left in the pot, and it's pretty much. Well, I'm sort of thinking we should just go ahead and stop, and I should chop them up the rest. But when I cut my thumb, we're gonna want that on video, so we can just edit this out if it's boring. I guess it's Amelia's job. Amelia, are you leaving this in? I guess you're not answering because you're editing the video later. All right, I don't feel like I'm gonna cut myself, so we'll go ahead and fast forward. Yep, that's smaller than it was. Smaller. It's an interesting math problem how you cut things and make them bigger than they were. It can be done, but that's not what we're going for here. So now all the potatoes are cut up. And we're gonna run some hot water in here, just enough to cover. While that's running, I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna check. You can come on over. You can check. I'm gonna check the meatballs and see how they're doing. So they're just barely getting just a little bit brown. I think this is gonna take a little while, so I'm gonna cover the potatoes, but I'm not going to start boiling them yet, because if I do, I think they'll be done too soon before the meatballs are ready. So we'll go ahead and just leave them there on the stove for a little bit and come back and check on the meatballs in a sec. Are we on?
Yeah.
You need to say something. 33. So the meatballs have been in there for about 33 minutes. So we're going to check them and see. And those smell good.
Nom nom nom.
And yeah, they look to be kind of about half done, maybe a little bit more than half done, but they're coming along. So I think we are ready to turn on the potatoes. Turn them on high, and you know, we all know the wooden spoon trick. So there you go. Put that on there, and we'll check them in a bit.
Which apparently means a face badly in need of punching. Her About page explains that if we don't nurture and grow our word realms, we don't nurture and grow our thought realms. And it's hard to know how to describe a sentence like that. Thankfully, Wordabees has an entry on fanfaronade, which means empty self-promoting language, and that seems to hit the nail right on the head. This website is so handy. Then there is Liz Williams.
So we have our meatballs in the process of cooking. We got our potatoes boiling. Now we're going to work on a sauce to smother our meatballs in. So this tool I'm about to introduce you to is a can opener. So let's say that you have a can and you're like, wow, this can is so closed, I don't know what to do. Well, technology has produced this thing called a can opener, and the way that it works is you set the can on the table and you put the can opener adjacent to the top, and you kind of rest this little sharp edge inside the top, and then you close, and you hear that little click. That means that you've punctured the can, and then there's a little lever here that we can turn. So we're going to turn, and the can magically goes from closed to open. We've made an open can now. You gotta be careful with these lids, they can be very sharp. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this into my little woo! I had that on too long. And scoop out the rest. By the way, I'm using Campbell's cream of mushroom soup. This is, if you're ever cooking for Heather, she really loves that stuff. So what I'm gonna do now is try to estimate whether that's enough. I don't know. I'm gonna throw some milk in, about, I don't know, half a cup, 3/4, something like that. And stir that up. I'd normally put sour cream in here, but I don't think I have any, so I'm gonna go with a little cream sherry. The reason I chose this was that I found it. And that's about how much I'm gonna use. And a little Worcestershire sauce, Worcestershire, I think people say Worcestershire. That's probably too much. A little Worcestershire goes a long way. We're gonna stir this up, get it nice and hot. And I think my volume, I'm trying to picture how much it's gonna cover those meatballs. I don't think the volume is gonna be quite enough, so I'm gonna get a little more mushroom soup here. Oh, by the way, this kind of can doesn't need the can opener. It comes with a pop tab. I won't explain that because a lot of people who don't cook know how those work. And what we're going to do is stir this up at medium heat. I got it on like a 7. Might want to go higher than that. I think this stuff's getting... I started this sauce a little late, so I probably should have had it going a little while ago. So I'm going to turn it up a little higher and keep stirring. stirring this, and it seems like it's a little bit thicker than I would like. I'm going to thin it out just a little bit, put another half cup or so of milk in there, and stir that in. As soon as this gets hot, we'll pour that over the meatballs and finish baking. So this has achieved a nice little bubbling, and I added a little salt and pepper whenever the video wasn't on, but we're gonna go ahead and take this, and we wanna pour out the grease. You don't want a bunch of grease in there. Normally it would be good if you had like a paper cup or something, but I'm just gonna pour this into here, let it cool, then I'm gonna put it in the trash. And meatballs, mostly cooked, we're gonna put the sauce over them. Then we're gonna return it to the oven and crank up the heat now that we've got all that liquid in there. Let's turn it up to like 450. It's probably, we're gonna pull it out in like 15 minutes, so it's not gonna be in there too long. So we're gonna go with our vegetal group now as well. Get a little canned corn here. Gonna utilize our good friend, the can opener again. And open up. Now if you're just Kyle eating alone, you're probably gonna need 3 cans, but for the Atkins family, we can probably do with 2 cans of corn. And what I'm gonna do is take this over to the sink. We don't want, these are canned in water. We don't want all of them. Oh, that's corn juice. The corn water is really good. If we put too much of this in, it just waters it all down. So drain a bit of that out. Put it into a can. Pull the lid out. And turn that on to medium heat there, and we'll let that warm up while our potatoes are finishing up. Potatoes are done, and the way that you know the potatoes are done, you take a potato and take your wooden spoon and just kind of push it, it'll crumble. You know, it won't break in half, it'll crumble. We're gonna take this over and strain out the water. Into the pan, we're gonna put 2 sticks of butter, because butter makes it good. Come on, come on. Put it on there. And here's the second one. And I'm gonna pour the potatoes up. And put this much salt for starters. Might want a little more later, we'll see. And this is the correct amount of milk. And then we're gonna get our potato smasher. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna smash some potatoes. Whenever I was growing up, we always did this with an electric mixer. And really that is a pretty good way to do it. Get them nice and whipped. And
I don't use those anymore because it's kind of a hassle to get it out and clean it up. Potato mashers work pretty well. Probably have a few more chips left. Use a potato smasher like this. I mean, with an electric mixer, but you know, it's nice.
And then taste it. Ooh. Yep, those amounts were correct. I got all the amounts exactly correct, so I don't need to add anything else. This is is ready to go. And corn probably needs to be a little bit hotter. And I'm gonna say that these are probably done. Where to put them? Oh, well. Put them there. And finally, we're going to plate out the meal. Presentation is so important for, you know, gourmet chefing like this. So what we're going to do is put some potato there and some meatball there. And if you like, if you want gravy on your potatoes, you can put those on there. But I'm not sure who's going to eat this plate, so I'm not putting it on yet. And then a little bit of color, we give it some corn, and we are good to go. Bon appetit.